You're on ABC Queensland, improving your health, learning a new skill, saving money, reading more. They're some of the common things you hear people speaking about as the new year nears, those much hyped resolutions. Psychology consultant Dr. Jo Lukens is anti-New Year's resolution, and I asked her why.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of it, and not because I don't think the intentions aren't well placed, but what we find is that the expectations that go around a New Year's resolution typically are not met. So we know that most people, by 3/4 of the way through January, if you haven't got your New Year's resolution and truly entrained as part of your new life, you probably won't. I'm like you. I get lots of requests around this time of the year to talk about New Year's resolutions, and I feel a bit sad talking about them because I know for most people they don't work. So it got me thinking about we need to approach this probably a little bit differently and put people on the pathway to having some successful outcomes.
Yeah, so sometimes around this time of year, especially if you're thinking about the new year and you think new year, new me, but how do you recommend that we think differently about those traditional resolution approaches?
Yeah, so I think what typically happens is, and that's the challenge, isn't it? I often say to people, if it's 8 o'clock on the 31st of December, it's probably not the time to be revamping your life because you've probably got some other things going on as well. And what happens is we don't spend enough doing the legwork, understanding why it is that we're currently not achieving those things, whatever they might be. And it's those barriers, and often there'll be things like time or opportunity or habits, and those are the things that we actually need to address. So there's actually a little bit of work that goes into changing behaviour. And I think probably what happens as well with a New Year's resolution is we make it really big. And so therefore, just by default, it's too hard to achieve. So when things feel too hard, we tend to think not. So we certainly know those smaller little behaviours. I often use the phrase that little by little, a little becomes a lot. So it's about lowering our plans in terms of what we're going to do so we get closer to those maybe broader goals that we might have for ourselves.
Yes, so it's more of a steady as she goes approach to easing into and making those incremental steps towards our goals rather than just going, as of today, I'm not eating anything other than what was grown in this particular out there and bizarre and really extreme.
Absolutely, because it just becomes too overwhelming. And if we have to think about it too much and then we roll back into our everyday lives where there's already enough going on, we're actually setting ourselves up for failure. So exactly that point that you make is, I always say to people, set a small goal and then make it even smaller. I'm going to exercise. I want to exercise every single day. We'll say, I'm going to go and exercise for 10 minutes, or I'm going to put my shoes on, or I'm going to make those really small goals so that then they're achievable. And then what you get is this thing called momentum. And once you've got a little bit of momentum happening, then you can go broader. But you definitely don't want to start too big, and you certainly don't want to revamp every aspect of your life.
So talk us through some of the habits outlined in your approach to these resolution type things.
Yeah, so I think probably it's less about saying that there's specific things that we're going to do and more about some of our daily habits or our approaches. And again, I've got a couple of them here that I'm going to mention. And what I don't want is someone to go, oh, I better write all 4 of these things down and do all of them. Because remember what I said before, just pick out one and do that well, and then maybe come back and re-listen to our interview. So it is about spending some time looking in the mirror. And I don't mean looking in the mirror at our appearance, but looking in the mirror at our behaviours and our attitudes and things that we do. So we do know that being mindful, reflecting is really helpful for us. We do know that practicing gratitude and being grateful for the things that we have helps us. We also know that nurturing our relationships, and even some of these things can feel like they're a long way away from some of our broader maybe physical goals or study goals or whatever they are. But what we find is that when we set up ourselves and we make ourselves, if you like, a little bit happier with our lives and how things are going, it gives us a bit more balance, and then it makes it easier to do some of those other more specific tasks.
You mentioned before that usually by 3/4 of the way through January, these resolutions are starting to slip away. How long, though, does it take typically for people to notice results if they do set those goals?
It will depend upon what it is. The physical changes that we might expect, if it's a physical goal, might be different if it's, say, the study goal. So I've been talking with someone recently who's simply set themselves the task of reading for 10 minutes every morning while they eat their breakfast. And the only way you're going to do that is if you notice what you used to be doing, and no surprises, what they used to be doing was being on their phone. So to say yes to something new, you have to say no to something that's already happening.
That's psychology consultant Dr. Jo Lukens there. Thanks for being with me this morning on ABC Queensland. It's coming up to your 10 o'clock ABC News.